Warriors Legends of Troy. Wow, I remember playing Legends of Troy back in the PS3 days and was literally blown away. The games froze you straight into the world of the movie Troy. The screams of soldiers, gleaming armor, swords and spears, and legendary names like Achilles and Hector. Even the Trojan horse looms large, casting a shadow over the events. You feel like you're inside a well-known epic, but you're the one wielding the weapon and riding the battle your way. The story follows the lines of the legend, but it gives you moments where you feel the weight of the characters, especially Achilles with his arrogant and ruthless nature. And the gameplay is a Muso-style battle, yes, meaning huge numbers of you taking them down. But what sets it apart is that the combat has more weight than usual. The sword has a rhythm, the spear gives you range and control, and there's a feeling that you're fighting in the middle of an army, not just NPCs falling for decoration. The best thing was the feeling of ancient warfare, the sand, the smoke, the cheers, and the destruction that makes you finish a level with sweaty hands. I always ask myself, imagine if the series had continued and been released on the PS5 with powerful graphics, smarter AI, and deeper sword and spear mechanics. It would have been one of the greatest action franchises in history. An old game, but it remains in our memories because it was an epic to play, not just watch.
SOCOM 3. I love the SOCOM series. And for me, SOCOM 3 is Sony's underrated masterpiece. It's a game that gives you a pure, unvarnished military atmosphere. Here, you're not a Rambo running around and destroying everyone. You're a team leader, and every decision has consequences. From the moment you start the mission, set up your routes, and issue your orders, you feel like you're actually managing an operation, not just grabbing a weapon and walking away. The gameplay relies on planning. You can enter silently, choose an angle of attack, have your team hold their ground, and then suddenly, one wrong shot turns the operation into a disaster. The tension here is the kind that makes you walk slowly, watching for doors and windows because bullets are merciless. And the best part is that the team's orders were practical and intelligent for their time. Cover, advance, infiltrate. And you feel like the team isn't just a bad team. Their presence makes a difference. The maps in SOCOM 3 are bigger and more expansive, and some give you the feeling of real battles in open areas instead of narrow corridors. However, the game manages to create tactical moments even in open spaces. SOCOM 3 reminds you of a time when Sony had its own unique military game, unlike anything else. And whenever I think about the online gameplay back then, I feel sad that the series is gone.
Ghost Rider. I used to watch movies and didn't know anything about this superhero except that he was, the one with the flaming head. But the Ghost Rider game that came out on the PS2 was honestly amazing. What distinguished it from other superhero games of the time was that it didn't try to be cute. It's a game that tells you you are rage, fire, and chains, and go for it. The hack-and-slash gameplay is clear and straightforward, close to the spirit of God of War back in the day, but with a hellish twist. Chains are the real weapon. You strike, drag, spin enemies as if you're creating a circle of fire around them, and every strike has a sound and sparks that make you feel the heat. And in moments, you start using fire abilities and set the arena ablaze. You feel like you're truly a lion walking on Earth. The game also gave you a motorcycle that you could ride and shoot fire from. And what I remember most is the feeling of transformation, when the game gives you moments of power and makes you smash enemies quickly, and you feel that fire isn't just an effect, it's the identity of the game. Ghost Rider was different. Loud, fiery, and it makes you smile while you're at it. Burn everything in front of you.
Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. I've been playing Lords of Shadow 2 lately, and I've been missing out on so much greatness. I thought it was just a sequel, but it turned out to be a game with a powerful presence, especially since you play as Dracula himself, Gabriel Belmont, a broken and worn-out character who seems strong on the outside, but dead inside.
The gameplay here is absolutely amazing. The combat is fast-paced and bloody, and you have 3 weapons that let you change your mood in the same fight. The basic whip, the chaos claws that feel like they can cut through steel, and the shadow weapon that gives you control, movement, and makes you play intelligently. The more combos you learn, the more you feel like a real monster, not just a hit-and-run character. Story-wise, the second part is broader and darker than the first. The first was a straightforward epic journey, while here there's an interplay between the past and present, and there are moments that make you sympathize with Dracula despite everything. And what's disappointing? We didn't get a third Lords of Shadow, because the ending feels like it says something bigger could have come, but it was cut short.
Desert Storm. The nostalgia is palpable. Desert Storm was one of those games I used to play while getting into a more serious military game like SOCOM, but with its own unique feel. No stunts or superheroes, just a small team in a harsh desert trying to make it out of the mission alive. What made it special was that you didn't play as just one person. You managed an entire team, switching soldiers, issuing orders, deciding who covered and who advanced, and you felt like you were actually leading an operation. The gameplay relied on careful advances. One wrong shot or a reckless move could ruin the whole plan. The story subtly hinted at the atmosphere of the Gulf War, not in a cinematic way, but enough to give you the feeling of a military mission rather than an adventure. And the desert maps and small buildings made you read the environment, observe, choose a route, and take advantage of every cover. Even the weapons felt more realistic than in arcade games back then. Its drawback, of course, is that the controls feel dated today, but the game has that military feel, teamwork, orders, tension, and survival. It was a game that made you feel victory wasn't due to strength, but to composure and discipline.
Fallout New Vegas. Look, after playing Fallout 4, I thought, okay, let me go for the most popular one. I dropped Fallout New Vegas expecting just another old game. But what happened was I was completely immersed in Mojave as if it were a real place. You walk through the desert, hear a faint radio, and see a casino tape playing in the distance. You feel like the world has a flavor, filth, sarcasm, and danger grinning in their face. The story is brilliant because it starts with something so simple, a bullet in your head, a lost backpack. And then you discover you're caught in a war of influence between factions, and every choice has a price. What makes New Vegas special is that the game respects your words and your intellect. Your dialogue opens doors, closes doors, and makes you play as a character, not just a fighter. The gameplay is dated, yes, the shooting is heavy and the animations are rough, but the RPG elements are gone. Perks, reputation, and gameplay styles that make you want to replay and come away with a completely different result. And the survival mode, especially on higher difficulties, every shot counts, and food, water, and poisons become decisions. And the monsters? Deathclaw isn't messing around here. New Vegas remains gold because it gives you true freedom and memories that last longer than any graphics.
Look, to be honest with you, I still prefer the first prototype. It had more madness, more freedom, and a darker tone. But the second one, I loved it too. It wasn't bad at all. On the contrary, it added a lot to the gameplay, making it clearer and more robust. Prototype 2 makes you feel like a parasite walking among people, something similar to Venom, but on an entire citywide scale. You play as James Heller, a soldier returning from the Iraq War, broken and angry, entering infected New York City for revenge. Yes, it's a typical revenge story, not very complicated, but the character himself fits the mood. Someone who has nothing left to lose, and every fight feels like an explosion of rage. The gameplay is the star. The movement is fast. You run on walls, leap across streets, and pounce on your target like a predator. The transformations are fun. Claws tear, a sword cuts, a hammer crushes, and switching them mid-battle lets you unleash your creativity.
The destruction is insane. Cars fly, tanks explode, helicopters take off from the sky. It's like playing Venom and Hulk, literally a mix. That's how it felt. And there's something incredibly satisfying about the disguises. You devour a soldier and wear his likeness. You infiltrate the Black Watch base as if you're one of them. Then you turn it into a massacre. Prototype 2 is a game that will make you laugh at the sheer amount of power you have at your disposal.
Terminator 3. Look, I love the Terminator movies, and I always dreamed of a game that would let me play as Arnold Schwarzenegger and fight machines with cool heads. I thought, looks like we're not going to get anything like that these days because so many developers are just after money. So I went back to Terminator 3 on the PS2, and I was surprised at how much of the fantasy I was looking for it offered. Here, you're not a weak soldier. You're a T-850 in the thick of battle. You move through bullets like a tank, carrying shotguns, miniguns, and missiles, and you hear the sound of metal flying from the enemy. There are moments when you truly feel like a machine designed for war, especially when you're chasing down more dangerous units and the battle turns into a metallic mayhem. The story connects you to the atmosphere of the T3 movie, protecting John and Kate, and scenes from a future war feel like the realization of those glimpses we only saw for seconds in the movies. The game tries to offer variety, shooting, chases, and driving missions in vehicles that make you feel like you're in a cinematic chase. But to be honest, the controls are dated, yet they have a soul. It's a game from a time when they cared about giving you immediate enjoyment, and it makes you say, I wish someone would remake it today with the same intensity, but with modern mechanics.
The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. After playing The Return of the King, I thought, okay, I have to play the second Lord of the Rings game. And The Two Towers surprised me, because some people say it's the hardest game, like Dark Souls. And honestly, it has an old-school brutality that makes you respect it. The game immerses you in the events of the two films, Moria, Aemon Hen, and Helm's Deep, and every quest feels like it's based on a memorable scene. You choose between Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli, and each one has his own style. Legolas is fast and breaks through lines, Gimli is slow and his attacks carry weight, and Aragorn is balanced and makes you feel like you're the commander amidst the chaos. The gameplay is hack and slash, but enjoyable. Combos, blocking, and throws, and with so many orcs, you feel like you're in the middle of a real battle. In Helm's Deep especially, the pressure of the arrows and ladders makes you tense, like you're defending the last line. Its flaws? The camera sometimes acts out, and some scenes repeat the same feeling. But every time I hear the orcs scream and the clang of the iron, I smile and say, oh my god, those were the days.
The Punisher. I love The Punisher, and I watched the series with Frank Castle, and then I thought, wait, I remember a gory game on the PS2. I launched The Punisher and played it, and I was shocked by the amount of hidden beauty it contained. Because it's not your average shooter, it's a game with a dark and cold mood, and it makes you feel like you're inside a revenge story without any embellishment. The story is based on the atmosphere of the first movie, and it immediately takes you into Frank's mindset, a man who's broken and has nothing left to lose. The cinematic scenes were powerful, and the game's tone is closer to the comics than to being just a movie. The gameplay is a mix of third-person shooter with a bit of stealth, but what sets it apart is the interrogation system. Here, the game literally builds itself on the idea that you pressure enemies to extract information. The feeling here is heavy. The variety of weapons is enjoyable, and the combat feels substantial, especially when you utilize the environment and move between rooms like you're on a cleanup mission. The Punisher was bolder than many games today, and it makes you wonder, how was all of this on PS2? It's an experience worth going back for.
Uncharted 3, it's the game that makes me laugh every time I think about it and say, there's no way this game was on the PS3. Because it didn't offer levels, it offered complete catastrophes that you lived through. From the bar brawl at the beginning to the London chases, the game immerses you in an adventure like a blockbuster, but you're the one making mistakes and fixing them. The strongest thing here is the set pieces. The plane crash isn't just a video clip. You literally move around inside a plane that's disintegrating in mid-air. Boxes are flying, your body is sliding, and the panic is real. And then the cruise ship that flips over, the same feeling. A tilting floor, changing lighting, and corridors that become traps. The technology here was magical, especially the sand in the empty quarter. Your footsteps sink, the dunes move, and the light reflects in a way that makes you feel the desert heat. And the characters? Nathan, Sully, and Elena have great chemistry, and their dialogue is natural and relieves the tension amidst the madness. But to be honest, the story sometimes gets scattered, and the weapons combat today seems a bit dated. However, as a cinematic adventure experience, Uncharted 3 still raises the bar and puts many modern games to shame in terms of direction and pacing.
50 Cent Bulletproof. If you're looking for a good laugh and a gangster vibe without taking things too seriously, then 50 Cent is for you. It's not a shooting masterpiece, and it won't compete with the big games of yesteryear, but it has a distinctly rapper movie feel. You're 50 Cent himself. You walk through dirty neighborhoods, dealing with betrayals and street battles like a long music video, but with bullets. The shooting is simple and straightforward, and the game likes to give you a lot of weapons. Machine guns, shotguns, pistols, making you feel more like you're in a show of force than a tactical exercise. The aiming can sometimes feel sluggish, the camera isn't always helpful, and there are moments when the game seems to be working against you. But when you get into the mood and start doing bullet time and wiping out an entire gang, you'll laugh and say, "Okay, keep going." The story, it's a classic revenge story, but having the rapper himself in the game makes it weird and fun, like it's saying, "I'm not a realistic game, I'm a street legend in my own way." What makes me laugh is that sometimes it feels more like a message about the rap wars in America than a game. The same showmanship, the same who's in control mentality, and the same obsession with image and prestige. Ha-ha.
Batman Arkham Asylum. And now, let's move on to the legend, the first of the Arkham trilogy, Arkham Asylum. The strange thing is, the older it gets, the better it becomes, because the game didn't try to be a huge open world or an endless list of tasks. It focused on one place and made it suffocating. The asylum here isn't a map, it's a character. Cold corridors, the echo of distant screams, and a dim light that makes you feel trapped with them. The story here is that the Joker controls the place and drags you from trap to trap, and over time you start to feel that Batman isn't just fighting criminals, he's fighting their madness. The voice acting is excellent, and the dialogue has a retro charisma that makes you smile even amidst the tension. The gameplay is what changed superhero games. The free-flow combat system truly makes you feel like Batman. You strike, retaliate, and move seamlessly between enemies as if you're dancing amidst chaos. The Predator is still legendary. You turn off the lights, move between obstacles, snipe one, and hear the rest crumble in fear. Here, you feel like you're the shadow, not just the fighter. Arkham Asylum is the foundation of the masterpiece for the legendary Arkham trilogy.
Cold Winter. In the previous video, a friend commented, "Play Cold Winter if you want an experience like Black's." So I played it, and I was surprised I hadn't even noticed it. It's a PS2 game that looks like a regular shooter from afar, but once you start, it feels more like a cold, calculated spy thriller, escaping a dungeon, calculated steps, and the feeling that you're not a tank, you're someone who, if you make a mistake, falls quickly. I liked the gameplay because it blends decent shooting with a touch of tactics. Sometimes you enter quietly, gather ammo, open a door and hear the enemy talking, and then the confrontation explodes, and you're looking around and searching for cover like a normal person. And to be honest, the feeling of firing the AK was strangely enjoyable. The sound of the shots is heavy, the recoil is clear, and you feel that every burst has weight. Not on the same level as Black's, of course, because Black was obsessed with sound, explosions, and destruction. It was like an action movie exploding all the time. But here's the difference. Cold Winter is calmer, its story is clearer, and it has a spy-like rhythm that keeps you coming back to find out what happens next. So yeah, I still think Black is far superior in terms of shooting and sound, but Cold Winter is a hidden gem that's worth trying.
Ninja Gaiden Black. To be honest with you, I played other Ninja Gaiden games and loved them, but when I tried Black, I was like, wow, this isn't just old, it's a whole school of combat. I was playing the remaster and thought, since it's not a remake that completely changes the experience, why not go back to the original but with decent graphics and high frame rates? And I truly discovered that the game's strength isn't in its visuals, it's in its feel. The gameplay here is unforgiving. There's no pampering or easy and you'll get used to it. The game grabs you from the first hour and tells you, learn or break. Ryo Hayabusa moves quickly and precisely, and every keystroke has meaning. Block, dodge, jump, then counter at the right time. And combat isn't just button tweaking, it's about reading the enemy, managing space, and knowing when to attack and when to retreat. The story is simple, in the style of classic action: sword, clan, revenge, and demons. That's what the point of playing is, but it provides a respectable framework for the madness that ensues. Its only flaw is that it's too harsh and might put many people off, but Ninja Gaiden Black remains a reminder that some games never get old because they are built on pure skill. Spawn Armageddon. This is one of those PS2 games that, if you revisit it today, you'll understand how daring it was. You play as Spawn, a creature somewhere between hell and humanity, his head filled with rage and guilt. Instead of being a hero, you're more like a weapon, walking, dragging his chains, and setting the road ablaze. The gameplay here is heavy and enjoyable hack and slash, chain combos, dragging and throwing enemies, and gunfire that lets you mix melee and ranged combat without feeling trapped. The best moment is when you unlock your hell powers and start wiping out entire waves. It feels like the game is telling you, don't be afraid, go wild. One thing I noticed about the PS2 and PS3 era was that hack and slash games were all the rage. They were awesome and the trend of the time. The story throws you into the middle of a war between angels and demons on Earth, creating a diverse atmosphere with dark streets, eerie religious sites, and explicitly hellish scenes. It might not be the most profound writing, but it has a comic book vibe that keeps you going just to see where the madness leads. It was a game that deserved a modern sequel with stronger mechanics. Splinter Cell Conviction. Look, I loved the complete transformation of the game, and this installment didn't lose its appeal entirely. No. Splinter Cell Conviction was a shock at the time because it transformed Sam Fisher from a cold stealth character to a fast-paced, aggressive one. But strangely, the feeling is still Splinter. You're hunted, alone, and moving like a biting shadow. The story here is personal and painful. Sam isn't a soldier following orders, he's a broken father searching for the truth, and with every scene, you feel that it's become more about revenge and justice than official operations. The gameplay is what makes it addictive. The mark and execute system gives you moments of I'm in control after you've grown tired and calmly taken control of the situation. When you combine it with stealth and changing locations, you have a satisfying rhythm. The last scene concept lets you play with the enemy's minds, letting them shoot at the shadow and then emerging from another angle. And the interrogations? Man, they're brutal and make you feel the weight of the character. But, to be honest, those who really loved the original Splinter might find it a bit too linear and action-packed. However, Conviction remains a different, fast-paced, and polished stealth experience. You'll keep coming back to it and enjoying it like it hasn't aged a day.
The Incredible Hulk. Okay, and now for the ultimate destruction. The Incredible Hulk is the game that tells you plainly, you're not a superhero, you're a walking disaster. The moment you grab Hulk and start running, you feel the ground shake beneath you, and your leaps tear the city apart like paper. The game wasn't interested in a complex story. It was interested in giving you a raw sense of power. The feeling that if you get angry, everything around you turns to scrap. The gameplay here is brilliant because it lets you be creative with your destruction. You rip up a car and use it as a bat, grab a tank and throw it like it's a toy. You demolish a building piece by piece, and even walk on walls and attack from above. The best part is that the destruction isn't just visual effects. You actually change the landscape, leaving behind shattered streets and incomplete buildings, as if the city remembers what you did. It has moments of pure madness that you won't see again. You pull down a lamppost and turn it into a weapon, or grab a helicopter and crash it to the ground, or do a move that sends an army flying around you. All of this makes you laugh at its illogical but enjoyable power. But the crazy question is, why haven't we seen a Hulk game with the same freedom yet? Is it possible that the studio stopped because it was too powerful?